Let me tell you something about men, and I want you to really hear me. Silence does not always mean he doesn't care. That's the mistake so many women make. The moment his calls slow down, the moment the texts get shorter, the moment there's a little space, panic sets in. Your mind starts creating stories. He's losing interest. He found someone else. I did something wrong. But sometimes none of that is true. Sometimes what looks like distance is actually a man trying to understand what he feels. You have to understand something about how men process emotions. Women talk through their feelings. You call your friend, you replay the conversation, you analyze every word, and by the end of that talk, you've unpacked it. Men don't do that. A lot of men were never even taught how to process emotions properly. They were taught to suppress them. Be strong, don't cry, handle it. So when real feelings hit, not just attraction, not just physical chemistry, but real emotional attachment, it can feel overwhelming. When a man realizes he actually cares about you, that's weight, that's responsibility, that's risk. Because caring means he can be hurt. Caring means he might have to step up. Caring means this could become serious. And seriousness requires clarity, maturity, and intention. So sometimes he goes quiet, not because he doesn't feel something, but because he feels too much and doesn't know how to label it yet. Now, I'm not talking about a man who is disrespectful. I'm not talking about someone who ghosts you for months and pops back up like nothing happened. I'm talking about those moments where you sense he's thinking. You can feel it. The energy shifts. He's not gone, but he's not as consistent as before. That space is often a processing phase. See, men fall in love differently. A woman can see potential and feel emotionally connected early. A man often starts with attraction and enjoyment. He likes your smile. He likes how you talk. He likes how you make him feel when he's around you. But love for a man grows when he starts seeing what life looks like with you in it. And that realization doesn't always happen in the middle of constant conversation. Sometimes it happens in the quiet. Absence has a way of revealing truth. When you're constantly available, constantly texting, constantly checking in, he doesn't get the chance to feel what life is like without you. But when there's a little space, when you pull back and focus on yourself, that's when clarity starts to hit him. He starts noticing your value in a different way. A man who truly cares cannot ignore that feeling forever. It will sit in his chest. It will cross his mind repeatedly. He'll wonder what you're doing. He'll wonder who you're talking to. He'll wonder if he's about to lose something meaningful. And that's when emotions get real. But here's the important part. You cannot force that realization. The moment you start chasing answers, demanding reassurance, or over-explaining your worth, you interrupt his processing. When you panic, you create pressure. And pressure doesn't create clarity, it creates avoidance. When you remain calm, when you don't jump to conclusions, when you continue living your life fully, you send a powerful message. You show that your happiness is not dependent on his immediate validation. That kind of energy is attractive. That kind of stability makes a man think deeper. Now let's be clear, silence is not always noble. Sometimes silence does mean disinterest, but the difference is in the pattern. A man who cares may step back briefly, but he doesn't disappear permanently. A man who cares still checks in. He still finds small ways to stay connected. You can feel intention even in limited communication. What you must avoid is assuming the worst too quickly. Fear can make you sabotage something that just needed patience. If every time he pulls back slightly, you respond with anger, accusations, or emotional shutdown, you may push away a man who is simply trying to understand his feelings. Maturity in relationships requires emotional discipline. It requires the ability to sit in uncertainty without losing your self-worth. It requires trusting that if something is meant for you, it will not require you to beg for it. When a man is sorting out his emotions, he is watching too. He's observing how you respond to space. Are you secure or are you spiraling? Are you trusting? Are you attacking? Your reaction tells him what kind of future dynamic you would have together. Strong relationships are not built on constant reassurance. They're built on mutual respect and emotional steadiness. If he feels safe to process his emotions without being judged or pressured, he's more likely to come back with honesty. And when he does, it will be clearer. It will be more intentional. Understand this, real feelings create internal tension for a man. If he sees you as temporary, there is no tension. He can walk away easily. But if he sees you as meaningful, distance feels uncomfortable, and discomfort leads to action. Eventually, he will need to resolve that feeling. That resolution often comes in the form of reaching out. So instead of assuming silence equals rejection, ask yourself a better question. Has he shown consistent care before this moment? Has he invested time, effort, energy? If the answer is yes, then a short period of quiet may just be him aligning his heart with his mind. And while he is figuring it out, you stay grounded, you stay productive, you stay focused on your goals. You don't sit by the phone waiting. You don't reduce your value to gain his attention. You maintain your standard, because here's the truth: the right man will not let confusion last forever. If he cares, clarity will eventually push him to speak. Men act when something matters. And when you matter, silence becomes temporary. Patience doesn't mean weakness. It means strength under control. It means trusting that what is real doesn't need to be forced. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all and allow a man the space to discover on his own just how much you mean to him. Let me explain something clearly. Don't chase him. Let him step up. This is where so many women lose their power without even realizing it. The moment communication slows down, the instinct is to close the gap. You text first. You double text. You ask if everything is okay. You try to fix a problem that hasn't even been defined. And in doing that, you shift the dynamic. Instead of allowing him the space to choose you, you start choosing for him. A man values what he has to pursue. That doesn't mean playing childish games. It means understanding masculine energy. When a man decides to step forward, when he decides to call, when he decides to express his feelings, that action feels earned to him. It feels intentional. But when you constantly initiate, constantly reassure, constantly make yourself available, he doesn't have to reach. And if he doesn't have to reach, he doesn't fully measure the value of what he has. Chasing comes from fear. It comes from the belief that if you don't hold everything together, it will fall apart. But a relationship that requires you to hold it together alone is not balanced. If he is truly interested, he will feel the natural desire to maintain connection. You don't have to remind someone of your worth every day. The right man sees it and responds to it. When you lean back, something powerful happens. You give him the opportunity to feel your absence. And absence is often the loudest teacher. When your texts stop lighting up his phone, when your voice isn't in his ear every evening, when your attention shifts back to your own life, that's when he begins to notice the difference. That's when he begins to ask himself what role you actually play in his emotional world. You must understand, stepping back is not manipulation. It is self-respect. It is saying, I will not overextend myself to secure someone who is unsure. It is trusting that if he values you, he will respond to the space with effort, not indifference. When you chase, you remove mystery. You remove tension. You remove the opportunity for him to rise. But when you allow him to initiate, you learn something important, his level of intention. Does he call? Does he plan? Does he show up? Or does he enjoy the comfort of you doing all the work? Men who are serious step up. They may take a moment to process, but once they decide, they move. And if you are constantly filling the silence, he never has to confront his own feelings deeply enough to act on them. There is strength in restraint. There is power in knowing you can reach out but choosing not to. It communicates confidence without saying a word. It shows that your life is full, that your happiness is active, that you are not sitting in emotional limbo waiting for validation. And when a man senses that you are not dependent on his attention, something shifts. He realizes your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. That awareness often triggers clarity faster than any emotional conversation ever could. Now let's talk about the second truth. Real feelings create action. Words are easy. Promises are easy. Future talk is easy. But action requires decision. A man who truly values you will not leave things undefined for long. He may hesitate briefly. He may struggle internally, but once he understands that his feelings are real, movement follows. When feelings are genuine, they create urgency, not desperation urgency. The kind that says, I don't want to lose this. The kind that makes him pick up the phone instead of overthinking. The kind that makes him drive across town just to see you. Emotion that matters does not sit idle forever. A man who sees you as important will align his behavior with that belief. He will make time. He will communicate. He will clarify. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, but intentionally. And intention is what separates curiosity from commitment. Sometimes women hold on to potential instead of paying attention to patterns. You remember the sweet words. You replay the compliments. But if weeks go by without consistent effort, that's not hidden love, that's inconsistency. Real feelings do not thrive in prolonged silence. They push a man toward resolution. When he truly feels something, it bothers him not to act. It lingers. It shows up in his thoughts at random. At times, he'll wonder if you're pulling away. He'll wonder if someone else is stepping into the space he left open. That internal pressure builds until he does something about it. But here's the key, you cannot force that action. If you demand clarity before he reaches it naturally, you may receive words that sound good but lack depth. Authentic expression happens when he arrives at the conclusion on his own. A man in touch with his real emotions will show you through behavior. He won't rely only on charm. He won't disappear for long stretches without explanation. He won't keep you in confusion while claiming to care. Real feelings push for stability. And if he does not act, if days turn into weeks and there is no effort, no clarity, no initiative, that is action too. Inaction speaks, silence speaks, avoidance speaks. It tells you the level of emotional investment without a single dramatic conversation. The beauty of letting a man step up is that you no longer have to decode mixed signals. You simply observe. You allow his behavior to reveal his heart. If he reaches out consistently, if he expresses himself clearly, if he creates plans instead of excuses, that is alignment between feeling and action. You deserve someone whose emotions motivate him, not someone whose emotions paralyze him indefinitely. Growth may take a little time, but genuine care does not remain hidden forever. So instead of chasing reassurance, watch for movement. Instead of demanding words, observe. Patterns. Real feelings create momentum. They create effort. They create pursuit. And when a man truly recognizes your value, he will not sit comfortably in silence. He will move toward you not because you pressured him, but because his heart decided you matter. Let's talk about something that separates confusion from clarity. If he doesn't reach out, that's clarity too. A lot of people don't like hearing that part. It's easier to hold on to hope. It's easier to believe he's just busy, stressed, overwhelmed, distracted. And sometimes that's true. Life happens. But when silence stretches longer than effort, when days turn into weeks and there's no initiative, no explanation, no consistent attempt to reconnect, you have to stop romanticizing absence and start reading it for what it is. Closure doesn't always come with a speech. Sometimes closure comes wrapped in quiet. And as uncomfortable as that feels, it is still an answer. When a man truly values you, he will not gamble with losing you. He may stumble. He may hesitate. He may not express himself perfectly, but he will not sit back comfortably while the connection fades into nothing. A man who cares feels the risk. He feels the possibility of losing access to you, and that discomfort pushes him to act. You have to separate your value from his behavior. His silence is not a measurement of your beauty, intelligence, kindness, or potential. It is a reflection of his priorities, his emotional readiness, and his capacity. Sometimes a man can like you and still not be ready to step up. Sometimes he can admire you and still lack the maturity to pursue you properly. And sometimes, as simple as it sounds, he just doesn't feel enough. If a man wants you in his life, he makes space, not excuses space. He adjusts his schedule. He sends the message. He makes the call. He finds the time. People create time for what matters to them. And when someone consistently fails to create time for you, you must believe the pattern instead of clinging to potential. It's important to understand that mixed signals are usually a sign of mixed priorities. When someone is sure about you, the energy feels steady. You don't feel like you're constantly guessing. You don't feel like you're chasing crumbs of attention. You feel considered. You feel included. You feel chosen. If you are constantly anxious, constantly waiting, constantly wondering where you stand, that dynamic is already telling you something. Love should not feel like decoding a secret message. Interest should not feel like emotional hide and seek. There is strength in accepting what is being shown to you. Many people stay in situationships far longer than they should because they are afraid of letting go of what could be. But could be is not reality. Reality is behavior. Reality is effort. Reality is consistency. When you accept that no response is a response, you step into power. You stop begging for clarity. You stop chasing explanations. You stop rewriting the story to protect your feelings. Instead, you say, if he wanted to, he would. And you move accordingly. Now let's talk about another truth. You don't lose the right man by having standards. You lose the wrong one. Sometimes women lower their expectations because they fear being alone. They tolerate inconsistency. They accept bare minimum effort. They convince themselves that asking for communication is asking for too much. But the right man does not view basic respect as pressure. The right man appreciates clarity. He respects your boundaries. He values your time. He doesn't disappear and expect you to be waiting patiently in the background. And if a man feels overwhelmed by simple expectations of communication and effort, that tells you he is not aligned with the kind of relationship you deserve. Standards are not ultimatums. They are guidelines for how you allow yourself to be treated. And when you maintain them calmly, without drama, without threats, you filter out confusion naturally. The man who is serious will rise to meet them. The man who isn't will fall away. You must also understand the difference between patience and self-abandonment. Patience is giving something healthy the time it needs to grow. Self-abandonment is ignoring red flags because you're afraid of starting over. Patience feels peaceful. Self-abandonment feels anxious. If you constantly feel uneasy, if your intuition keeps nudging you, if you're always explaining his behavior to your friends instead of feeling secure in it, pay attention. Your intuition often recognizes inconsistency before your heart wants to accept it. And here's the empowering part. Rejection is redirection. If he doesn't reach out, if he doesn't clarify, if he lets you fade away without effort, he is making space for someone who will not hesitate, someone who will not need convincing, someone who sees your value immediately and acts accordingly. When you release someone who cannot meet you fully, you protect your future. You protect your emotional energy. You protect your time. And time is something you cannot get back. There is dignity in walking away quietly. There is confidence in not demanding someone to see your worth. Your worth does not decrease because someone fails to recognize it. It simply means they are not equipped to handle it. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to stop reaching, stop checking, stop wondering. Let his silence speak. Let his absence answer. And instead of internalizing it as failure, interpret it as filtering. The right connection will not require constant doubt. It will not require you to shrink yourself. It will not require you to perform to maintain attention. It will feel reciprocal, balanced, mutual. If he reaches out with clarity and intention, you evaluate it calmly. If he doesn't, you accept that information with grace. Either way, you win because you are no longer trapped in uncertainty. You deserve someone who chooses you loudly, not someone who keeps you guessing quietly. And once you truly believe that, you stop fearing silence. You start respecting it. Because sometimes silence is not the enemy. Sometimes it is the truth setting you free. Stay grounded. Stay confident. Stay busy building your own life. That's not just motivational talk, that's strategy. Because when you center your world around whether or not he reaches out, you hand over your emotional control. And the moment your mood depends on someone else's text message, you've given away your stability. Grounded women don't panic at silence. They observe it. They don't immediately assume rejection. They don't immediately assume forever. They stay rooted in who they are. And that rooted energy is powerful. When you are grounded, you don't react impulsively. You respond thoughtfully. You don't send emotional paragraphs